When I was 17, my family moved to a ranch on the high plains, an endless stretch of fence lines, weathered barns, and woods older than the house itself. Folks in town warned us about things that walk in the night, but we shrugged it off. Two city kids. Stories about creatures shifting their skin and wandering fence lines sounded like campfire nonsense. That attitude changed one full night. It was late October, the kind of cold that sticks with you. Say what you want, but nights are different in wide, empty spaces. I was out feeding the horses at dusk, flashlight swinging, boots crunching on frostbitten grass. Our old property line ran maybe half a mile, marked by barbed wire and a sagging gate, with woods pressing close on both sides. My dog, Benny, usually tailing and sniffing, froze dead in his tracks about 20 paces from the fence. He raised his hackles, nose in the air, then started whining, a guttural, almost human sound that set my nerves on edge. I didn't see anything at first, but the air felt wrong, thick and heavy, like gravity wanted me to kneel. I glanced up and saw movement further down the fence, past the old post where no grass grew. At first I thought it was a coyote or maybe a stray calf, but as my eyes adjusted, I realized I was looking at something walking on two legs, thin, too tall for a man, and swaying like wind through bone. I called Benny. He wouldn't move. Instead, he slunk behind me, shivering. The thing at the fence lifted its head. I wish I could say it had a face, a real face. Instead, there were eyes, way too far apart, and a mouth that twisted sidewise, stretched wide. It hissed and let out a warbling sound that split the quiet like a siren. I saw the gate rattle and the barbed wire groan as the thing pressed closer. Every ounce of sense in me screamed to turn and run, but I stood there, frozen, staring. I'd read about skinwalkers, shape-shifting spirits born from ancient curses, able to steal a person's voice, copy a body, walk as any beast they choose. You hear about them on late-night radio or whispered on Reddit, but nothing prepares you for seeing one 20 yards away, gripping your family's fence. Suddenly, I heard my voice call out from the woods, not from my mouth, but echoing from the trees. Hey, over here. I swear to you, the sound was perfect. My exact tone, my words. Benny whimpered, pressing his head to my leg. I spun, heart pounding, trying to see who'd snuck up on me. It was pitch black, but the voice kept calling, looping back my own words at me. The thing at the fence grinned wider. I bolted back toward the house, Benny sprinting beside me. The wind picked up, carrying faint footsteps behind. Quick stumbling, sometimes stopping as if whoever chased me was learning to walk. I didn't stop running until I slammed the back door shut, hands shaking, flashlight clattering on the floor. My dad asked what happened. I tried to explain, but as soon as I mentioned Skinwalker, he snapped the kitchen window shut and told me never to say the word in the house. You don't invite it closer, he whispered. That name calls it. From then on, I watched the fence line each night. Sometimes I'd spot shadows pacing along the barbed wire, stopping to stare at our house. The horses got skittish. Benny refused to go out past dusk. We started hearing things in the walls, small scratches, echoes in the attic, lights flickering after midnight. One night, our neighbor, Tom, stopped by. He told us sheep had gone missing, their tracks leading right to our fence. He said coyotes could do it, but I caught the look in his eyes. He knew it wasn't coyotes. Things walk the fence at night, he said low. If you hear someone calling, no matter the voice, never answer. Things got worse. I'd come home from school and find muddy footprints outside the back door, long and narrow, like deer but pointed the wrong way. Our trash cans turned over, gates unlatched. Once, I found a tuft of animal fur stuck on the lowest strand of wire, but it was coarse and black, nothing like any animal I'd ever seen. I kept searching online, reading every Reddit thread and cryptid blog I could about skinwalkers. There were stories from Arizona, Utah, even a ranch in Kansas. Always the same warnings. Don't look, don't talk, never let it hear your name. Some said skinwalkers could mimic voices, trick you into leaving safety, draw you right to the fence line, where it could cross. One night, the worst happened. Benny woke me at 2 a.m., barking frantically. I stumbled outside, bat in hand. The moon was low and red, casting everything in shadow. The fence line shimmered, frost covering each strand. That's when I saw three figures, tall and gaunt, standing shoulder to shoulder just beyond the gate, the nearest so close I could see its breath cloud in the night. They started growling, not like dogs, but deeper, a hungry sound that vibrated in my chest. At the same time, I heard a voice, as clear as a bell, calling for help in a whimper that sounded exactly like my mum. Please, I need help, it cried. But I knew my mum was still asleep inside. My body locked up, knees shaking. I wanted to call out, wanted to run, but I remembered the rules from every post, every story. Don't answer, don't show fear, don't let them cross. Then I heard chanting, unfamiliar, rapid, impossible to understand. The air turned silent, not even the crickets dared make a sound. A minute later the growls started again, and the footsteps quickened. I backed toward the porch, face cold with sweat. When I turned I saw something that still freezes my blood. The closest skinwalker was running parallel to me, far faster than anything human. Its eyes two pitiless black holes with tiny points of red in the middle. I bolted inside, locked every door, turned every light on. Through the window, I saw it staring back, mouth split in a silent scream. I couldn't sleep all night. I heard tapping at the window, soft whispers across the glass. Don't come back, it hissed. Don't come back. Next morning, I found nothing. No footprints, no fur, nothing out of place. Benny still barked at the woods for weeks. My dad spread salt and sage along the fence, muttering blessings he'd heard from Navajo friends. For a while, the sightings slowed, but the fear stuck around. My dreams changed, filled with faces that didn't belong, voices repeating what I'd said the day before. Once, in broad daylight, I caught movement by the gate. Nothing visible, just a shimmer of heat, a trick of the light. I didn't investigate. Years have passed since then, but I'll never shake the lesson that fence line taught me. Some places aren't meant to be crossed. Some names never spoken aloud. In the open parts of America, legends don't just haunt. They prowl, waiting for anyone foolish enough to stop listening to old advice. So if you find yourself living near woods and fence lines, and you hear your voice calling from the dark, do yourself a favor, don't answer. Keep the doors locked, the porch lights burning, and always remember, what's out there watching might be faster, smarter, and hungrier than you'll ever know. Tonight, we touch a question that's haunted American homes for generations. What happens after you use a Ouija board, when the board is gone, but something remains? This isn't Hollywood. These are true aftermaths. Real stories from voices you might recognize. From the very bedrooms and basements that felt ordinary until that one midnight session. My name's Justin, and tonight's story begins, as they all do, with curiosity. It's late October, cold, quiet. Hannah and her friends, bored with Netflix and half-eaten candy, decide to craft a Ouija board out of paper. Just temporary, just for laughs. But everyone knows the rules, even if nobody really follows them. They light candles, draw the letters. The planchette slides easy, like an invitation. The board seems to come alive, spelling strange curses, strange names. A middle name no one in the group should know. Nervous laughter fills the room. But then it gets personal. The board spells out bed, over and over again. They're sitting next to Hannah's bed. The word repeats. Relentless. Bedroom, bedroom door. Hannah gets up, drawn, compelled, toward that door. On the doorframe, she finds a crumpled $10 bill, perfectly placed, sticky with a mystery. Her sister, wide-eyed and white-knuckled, accuses her of playing some twisted prank. But Hannah knows deep down, none of this is a joke. They rip up the paper board, thinking the nightmare is over. But the rule was, close the session properly, and they didn't. From that night on, shadows moved just outside the hall. Doors that used to hold firm began to open. Lights flickered for no reason. Cold spots blossomed where warmth used to be. Sleep felt less like rest, more like waiting for something to show up. One friend calls, days later. Something's wrong in my house. The TV switches on by itself. Remote untouched. My name whispered from the kitchen. Things keep falling. My dog barks at corners. Ever since I played with you. Another wakes up to find her photo frames face down, her bed sheets torn clean off the mattress. Footsteps above her head in an empty attic. Sometimes fear isn't loud. It creeps in through normal things, rearranging them until panic feels ordinary. Rain on glass. Hannah can't sleep, checking the bedroom door again and again. The crumpled bill, now pressed between her journal pages, grows colder each night. One morning, the pages spell out leave-in imprints like something pressed an invisible hand from inside those sheets. She tries burning the last scraps of the board. The smell is sharp and wrong. The front door slams shut and won't open for what feels like forever. Her family breaks through, finding her collapsed, breathless. From that day, Hannah won't speak about what she saw. Her friends drift and avoid the old house. The board is gone, but the aftermath stays. In footsteps, cold drafts, and the feeling that every question you ask might bring a little more darkness out. Years later, one friend swears she hears scratching in her new apartment, just outside the bedroom, always late at night. Another refuses to toss old bills, afraid the board might mark her again. Psychologists have their answers, skeptics dismiss the rest. But every year, the story repeats. New names, new houses, same questions. A Ouija board is only cardboard and ink, until you invite something in. The real horror is what happens after, the little things, the lingering visits, the moments you know you're not alone. Next time a knock comes in the dark and you remember the rules, ask yourself, did we ever really close the session, or did something decide to stay? Some stories become urban legends. Others rattle the bones of American homes, one family at a time. Some houses creak because they are old. This one creaked when it listened back. I moved in for the price, stayed for the memories, and almost did not leave at all. It was the kind of starter home realtors call, full of character. 1920s bones, a long hallway, 3 bedrooms, basement like a throat. I told myself the noises were settling wood, bad plumbing, a possum in the crawl space. That was before the knocks started keeping time with my heartbeat. They came first at the front window facing the street. Plausible, I said. Traffic, branches, drunk neighbors. Then at the side window, 8 feet off the ground. No branches, no ladder marks, no footprints in the mulch. After that, they learned about the house from the inside. Rules make people feel safe. So I made 3. Rule 1. After 11:30 p.m., don't open any door that you didn't close yourself. Rule 2. If a cabinet is open in the morning, leave it that way. Rule 3. When it knocks once, hide your eyes. It sounds ridiculous to say out loud, but rules are the only way to talk to a thing that does not have a face. You set boundaries. The house tests them, night after night. It was like living with a roommate who wanted my attention and could not say my name. The first week, it was doors. I would close the hall closet, go make coffee, and hear a soft hum, like a finger running the edge of a glass. Come back, the door would be ajar, 2 inches, not all the way. Just enough to say, look here. I didn't. The second week it learned my schedule. At 7:12 a.m., a kitchen cabinet would be open. The same one. Always the same teacups, inside. I left it. Day 3, 2 cabinets. Day 4, all of them. You can tell yourself you are being strong. But living with a kitchen that wakes up before you do is a quiet kind of surrender. The third week, it wanted the hallway. You know the American dream. Mortgage, paint swatches, framed photos in a line. I hung 3 by the bathroom door. Family, graduation, me holding the keys. Every night, they tilted a little more left. I leveled them each morning. One night, I left a level on the floor, dared it. Woke to find the level bubble centered and the photos facing the wall. I started sleeping with earbuds, podcasts, anyone talking about anything but this house. That's the strange comfort of a disembodied voice in the dark. It fills the space where thoughts would creep in. I know now that's how haunting worked best. They meet a voice in your ear and pretend it's their own. The first time it broke the rules was a single knock at 12:03, not 3:1, the kind you feel in your teeth. I froze. Rule 3. When it knocks once, hide your eyes. I slid under the bed, hands over my face like a child, breath in the dust. The house held its breath with me. Something paused in the doorway, not footsteps, pressure. Air thinks with you when something fills a space it shouldn't. The smell was coins and wet concrete. It stood long enough for my heartbeat to learn a new rhythm. Then the latch turned on its own and clicked shut. I stared into my palms until dawn. The next day I told myself a story I could live with. Sleep paralysis, vivid dream, anniversary stress. That evening I cooked with every light on and called a friend. We joked. We named the thing DJ Ghost, because music on the smart speaker kept queuing up exactly when I mentioned a song. Harmless, we said. Probably a glitch, right? That's how denial makes roommates of us all. Phone notification blip. Speaker starts an old song faintly, then cuts. But hauntings aren't jump scares. They're relationships. The 4th week, it learned my voice. I'd say I'm home, and the hall light would fade up 1 notch. I'd say goodnight, and somewhere a door would softly close, like a lullaby practiced by someone who never needed sleep. There's a moment in every haunting when you catch yourself doing something you swore you wouldn't. Mine was talking back. Not tonight, I whispered to the hallway, placing my hand on that bathroom door like it was a shoulder. The wood felt warm. I didn't sleep. Rain on windows. Distant car passes. Then a baby mobile chime. I don't have children, but the house pretended I did. The spare bedroom, the one with the cold corner, started to ring. A tiny chime we couldn't place, as if an invisible mobile were turning in a draft. I set my phone to record. Playback picked up a whisper I never heard in the moment. Shah, don't wake them. My name was not in the audio, but my bones answered anyway. I called in a favor. A friend who knows old houses. She walked the floors, flashed a light into ducts, struck studs, listened. You've got history, she said, and bad vents. We laughed until a floorboard at the end of the hall sounded like someone putting down a suitcase. My friend didn't laugh after that. You should sleep elsewhere tonight, she said, like telling me to miss a flight. I stayed. Of course I stayed. Midnight rain pulling threads across the glass. I sat in the hallway with a thermos and a flashlight angled toward my feet. No questions, just listening. The house spoke in what it could offer. A ripple of cold moving toward me, frames twitching on the nails, a shadow filling the bathroom door, like a thought that didn't want to be finished. Do you want me to leave? I asked. To the air, to the floor, to the heat register that pinged like a faraway microwave. No answer. Instead, 3 knocks from inside the bathroom cabinet. Gentle, patient. I stood, lifted the latch, and stopped at rule 1. Don't open what you didn't close. I'm sorry, I said, hand on wood. But I live here too. Silence. Then the softest exhale, as if the room itself deflated. Something changed after that. The cabinets still opened, but only the ones I used. The photos stayed level. The single knock never came again. It was less like I won, and more like we negotiated a lease. People ask why I didn't move. Some of us grow up in places where the house already knows your secrets. A new mortgage doesn't erase that muscle memory. And maybe, this is the part I don't say out loud, maybe I liked being expected. Like the house and I were 2 insomniacs who kept each other honest. On my last night there, before the job offer in another city, I did something dangerous. I broke rule 2. I closed every cabinet softly, one by one, hands flat against the wood, so it could feel me do it. In the hallway, I straightened the photos and whispered the names in them like a roll call. In the spare room, I said, the baby sleeps, to the empty corner. Then I sat on the bathroom floor, back to the tub, and waited. It came as a warmth over my shoulders, like someone draping a coat. Not cold, not dread, the opposite. A light pressure and a smell I couldn't place until much later. Old soap and laundry sun-dried in a yard that no longer exists. When it left, the house breathed out a little, and the pipes didn't echo at all. I locked the door the next morning, keys in a bowl. Sunlight on floors that had memorized my footsteps. On the street, I looked back once. The front window reflected only sky. No figure, no face, just a house that had learned how to live with someone, and had let them leave. Some houses creak because they're old. This one creaked because it listened back, and in its own way, it learned to say goodbye. I've lived in houses with basements my entire life, and every single one has a story, but none quite like this. It started the year my parents divorced. My mum, my sisters, and our dog moved into my grandparents' old place, a 3-story home with a basement that felt like a secret kept by the house. We slept upstairs, always with closed doors and a flashlight by the bed, but no one ever volunteered to crash in the basement, not once. There was nothing wrong with it, technically. The lights worked, the walls were finished, the air was clean, but from the first night, the place sent chills through your shirt, like you'd stepped into someone's cold breath. The stairs spiraled up through the whole house, creaking under every footstep no matter how you tried to tiptoe. My sisters and I made a game of listening for the steps, rising out of the dark below, pretending it was just pipes, wind, anything but what we really heard. Slow, deliberate footsteps climbing upward, pausing at each floor, sometimes stopping right at our bedroom doors. We tried logic. Maybe it was our mum, maybe the old house settling from decades of winter storms. But it would happen when everyone was accounted for, huddled on the couch together, eyes flicking to the nearest exit. We'd whisper about it in the morning. Did you hear it last night? Did it stop outside yours or mine? The dog always seemed to wake and stare at those steps before anyone else. I remember once, late after midnight, daring myself to go down alone for snacks. The air got heavier with each step. At the bottom, quiet as a grave. The silence hurt my ears. I went to grab some chips, and just as I turned toward the stairs, I heard them, one after another. The heavy tread of shoes on old wood, coming up toward me, slow and patient. I froze, pressing my back to the wall, craving any sound from upstairs. But there was only the basement's concrete echo and that deliberate movement. The lights flickered. I ran, leaving my pride and the snacks behind. There were stranger moments, footsteps heard by all, messages left in pencil on the wall. Goodbye, I have to go now. Open doors that shouldn't be open. The feeling of being watched as if you were prey. The dog whimpered at certain corners and barked at empty air. We checked the locks twice, kept the basement door closed, triple-checked the windows, and still the sense that something unseen paced just below us never faded. One night, after watching movies in the living room, my sisters fell asleep. I lay awake, hearing the steps come from below again, pausing at the landing and hovering in silence. Every night, the routine continued, never chaos, just a careful stalk through the heart of the house. No one spoke of sleeping down there, even when the power went out, and the only safe place should have been surrounded by solid walls. We'd all squeeze onto sofas upstairs. Later I moved out, but I've never forgotten those stairs. Friends asked to see the basement, curious why we made such a fuss. One tried to spend the night once. He lasted 30 minutes before sprinting up in a cold sweat. I asked him what happened. He said he heard someone talking softly from the farthest corner. Words he couldn't understand, but they sounded older, not angry, just tired. Now, every time I visit that old house, the basement door seems heavier. The air across my arms turns colder while I stand at the top, hand on the knob. I never go down alone. Some houses keep their secrets in the light, but some are more honest in the dark. And all I know is this: in my family, no one ever sleeps in the basement. If you ever find yourself drawn to one after midnight, remember, some rooms in old American homes remember every footstep, and some strangers picked their favorite places long before you moved in. When I was 8, I thought ghosts were just movie monsters, special effects and spooky stories for sleepovers. That changed at my aunt's house. On a slow Saturday in spring, I was upstairs, alone, playing video games. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my little brother, the blur of blonde hair, the way he ran. I didn't even look up. "Hey bub," I said, and he sprinted down the stairs. Naturally, I followed. At the bottom, he'd vanished. My aunt was kneeling at the coffee table, folding laundry. "Where's my brother?" I asked. She said, without turning round, "They must have just left." I shrugged and offered to help fold. It was ordinary, gentle, homey, almost boring, until she crossed into the kitchen and I found myself alone in that room. That's when I saw him. A blonde boy, not my brother, but close enough for me to feel a chill. He stood to my left, only a foot away, silent and watching. Before I could say anything, my aunt walked back in. He was gone, just as quickly as he appeared. Years later, my aunt admitted she'd lied. My brother and dad hadn't just left. She didn't want to scare me because, as it turned out, she, her boyfriend, and her oldest son had seen and heard things in that house before. She told me that a young boy had drowned in the river out back decades before we moved in. I never saw a picture, but deep down, I knew exactly who I'd seen. The truth is, I never felt threatened, not once. The boy was there for a reason, sure, but he was just a kid, looking for someone. A lost child wandering the edges of two worlds, not trying to harm anyone. As I grew older, stories like mine kept popping up. Nieces and nephews talking about special friends in empty rooms, family pets barking at shadows, parents remembering that same cold tingle across the skin. One night, years later, I babysat my own niece. Her crib's baby monitor glowed pale blue, and suddenly I heard whispering, soft, urgent, just above the hum of the AC. When I glanced at the screen, I saw a small dark figure standing in the corner of her room. Never in my life had I moved so fast. I rushed into her room, grabbed her, and hauled her straight back to the living room. My brother didn't even flinch when I told him. He just asked me not to tell his wife. Turns out he'd seen the exact same figure, heard the whispers, felt the darkness pressing close when he was alone at night. My niece talked about her special friend for years afterward. I started reading more. Other parents whose little ones said things that made their hearts sink. Kids giggling at corners, talking to nobody at all, mentioning names from family history long before they ever heard them in conversation. One story sticks with me. A toddler telling her mother, "I missed you when I was dead. We lived in apartment number 8 and I was all alone after you were dead." Matter of effect, as if remembering a rainy afternoon or last week's lunch. There's an idea, out there in the dark. Kids see what adults forget. Maybe it's innocence. Maybe a sensitivity to gentle spirits. Maybe, sometimes, it's something else entirely, and that's why parents listen extra close when the lights go out. And not every child's spirit is a danger. Some just want to be remembered, to play, to have someone notice them in rooms where laughter's faded. The ones I met, and the ones I read about, never made me feel afraid. The chills, sure, goosebumps in daylight, but harmless, friendly even. If I had one piece of advice, it's this: don't brush off every story your child tells at bedtime. Not all monsters under the bed are from the movies. Sometimes a lonely kid is just trying to say hello from somewhere you can't quite see. But the next time you catch your child talking quietly to an empty spot in the room, especially if they're giggling or saying a name you don't recognize, listen. Not all spirits are out to scare you. Some just want a little company.